this is not just historical. It's not just a poem. It is actually a story where those virtues are exemplified.
Welcome to Classical Etc. You're in the studio with Memoria Press.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Classical Etc. I'm Jessica Aboud, and I am here with the Core 4 back. We missed last week, but we're here, all of us. Everybody back from summer travels.
Did we miss last week?
We didn't miss recording, but we missed Core 4 conversation. But we did, we did record last week.
You were here, Tanya.
One of the necessary members.
You were here.
Not here.
That's right. Martin was absent, and
How did you get along without me?
Oh, we had Dustin.
Cried.
Stupendously.
That's right. I remember now.
We had Dustin.
Yeah, it was great. It was
I
very
heard in his
entertaining.
voice, you could be replaced, is what I heard.
You're on thin ice, so no. We missed you.
Every time
nice
you
everywhere.
leave, we try out somebody new.
Yeah.
I know. That's really, we use it as an opportunity to just see who could fill your
To
shoes.
just see what's out
That's
there.
right.
Just see what's possible. Yeah.
That's right.
That makes me feel so secure.
As it should.
Can't help you with that. Well, Martin, while you were away from us, did you do any reading? I feel like you're
I
always
did.
reading something when you travel.
I did. Well, okay. So I have been going back and forth between things like, now my main book is The Idiot by Dostoevsky. I've talked about that. I'm still reading that. I'm enjoying it more the second time. I'm taking more time with it. I think last time I read it, I was rushing through it. Rule number 1, never rush through Dostoevsky. All right. We know that now. But I'm reading an interesting book right now. I needed something, just my pure entertainment book, the one I just wanted to read, just let my hair down, have fun with it. And it's a book called Men Against the Sea. And it's the second part of the Bounty trilogy, the first volume of which is Mutiny on the Bounty, which is the most famous of them. It's a true story. That's the cool thing about it. But it's written like a imaginative fiction book, and it's just very, very well written. And I am totally enjoying it. And it's what happens, because Mutiny on the Bounty is the story of the mutineers, and then they go back to England and what happens and all this. And Men Against the Sea is the story of what happens to Captain Bligh after the Mutiny on the Bounty. And it's utterly fascinating. You get two completely different, at least different views on Captain Bligh, because in the first one, he seems like a bad guy. But in in Men Against the Sea, his good qualities come out. So, and then there's a third book. There's a trilogy. I can't remember the name of the third book, but I'll be curious to see in the end, what is the judgment on Captain Bligh?
So is he the one, was it Jack Nicholson that played in Mutiny on the Bounty?
Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando. And was he Captain Bligh?
Yes, he was Captain
Okay. I remember, I would think at the end of that movie, he was definitely portrayed as a negative. So that's interesting.
Bligh. Mr. Christian. Yeah, the first man.
Then he had like marbles or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I remember.
Yeah, he was I
haven't read the book.
That's the bad side of Bligh, but there's a good side of Bligh.
Okay, that is interesting.
Tanya, how about you?
Well, I'm still reading the unselected journals of Emma M. Lyon, and I'm like almost finished with volume 5. Then I have 3 more volumes to go, and then there aren't any more left. But I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's laugh out loud funny. It's just really entertaining, but it is light and entertaining. I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
Anything on your book list for the school year? Have you started anything?
Well, our
work?
MP book group is going to do Anne of Green
We are,
Gables, so
yeah.
I will reread that. And I've bought several books this summer based on different people that we've had on the podcast. Like I bought The School Days of Tom Brown. I bought that and I haven't read it yet. I don't know yet. I really want to reread Hound of the Baskervilles because it's been a long time and I feel like it's in our curriculum and it's one I don't feel like I know well. So we'll see.
Yeah, good variety. Paul?
I've been on a trajectory of finishing books. It's been wonderful.
Oh, nice.
So I finished Around the World in 80 Days. I finished Education of a Wandering Man. And I finished Graham Greene's The Human Factor. And so
Wow.
I was like, now I need a new book. So
what did you think? So Education of a Wandering Man is Louis L'Amour's autobiography. So what do you think of that?
Meanders.
It
meanders.
I love that book.
It's interesting. It is interesting.
And I was reading it when I read it. I think I read it on my first trip to Rome or maybe England. I can't remember, on the plane. And I was looking, but I was looking for certain things in there. As a book about education.
He's got some really interesting points. He's got some points that I'd probably push back against. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes some of the points I push back against, he does like show that he's got reservations, like in the sense of like anybody can get an education, but he says you have to have a will. He's that you want it, and he makes very clear. Mm-hmm. That he's like, I grew up in a reading family. So when I left before I graduated high school, like I knew that all I had to do was get my hand on a book and I could read it and I could learn. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's a very different thing than a child in a school that may not want to read. Right. Or a child dropping out of school that doesn't want to read. And so I think he understands that, but he is painting this picture of, sort of this romantic, I get to be an adventurer. I get to read all the time. And I got to learn the world that way. Mm-hmm. So there's...
Yeah, because he'd like just stop in some little town somewhere back in the 1920s or 30s, and he'd just hang out at the library for a few weeks.
Yeah.
For a few weeks?
Yes. Yeah,
wow. Just reading.
And he seemed to be actually much more fascinated. He read a lot of the great books, and towards the end, he says something like, when I built my library, I did not look for the great books. Like I was looking for... Because he was looking for more of the books that would tell kind of the real story of history. So people's like lives and how, what they ate and what their daily life was like and that sort of thing. Because he's an author, he needs to know all that stuff for writing. And but he would either hanging out at the library or just hanging out with the local people and like working a local job. And he would start getting the local stories. And that's how he kind of built all of his repertoire of stories to tell.
And I don't remember if he talks about it, but one of the little known things about him was he was a professional boxer.
Oh, he talks about that a lot.
Oh, does he? I couldn't remember.
Well, that sounds boring.
Oh. You would say that.
But it was basically anytime he needed a little bit of money, he'd go get in a fight. He'd sign up to be in a boxing fight and win a little bit of money.
He fought like 55 times and won all but 2 or 3 of them. He's a very good boxer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I found a recommendation of a friend that Audible has a free book out right now that's like included if you've got an Audible membership on Daniel Boone. And it's free through like the middle of October. So I was going to take my opportunity and just listen to that, get some Kentucky history in.
Yes.
And
I started an Audible book this morning on my commute. That's the first in a series by Val McDermott.
I heard that name.
She's a crime writer. And there's a series on BBC, I think, called Karen Peary. And it's based on those books, which I didn't even know. And the second season's coming out. So I thought I'd listen to the first book and remind myself.
There you go.
Just some mindless
crime.
Mindless crime
normally
for the
you're
tribe.
Instead of intelligent crime.
I know. Mindless crime.
It's in between listening to you guys.
Yes.
She listens to us. I do. I listen to every podcast because there are many times you have to be cut.
One of the reasons you're on thin ice, Martin.
That's right.
I guess so. Maybe I should just retire.
Or just not talk so much.
Etc. member.
Well, we typically answer a listener question, but this week we are going to save that. We have one more week for you to send in your questions at podcast@memoriapress.com. And next week we'll be back with a mailbag episode where we
mailbox episode.
I know. I got my mailbox.
It's supposed to arrive today.
That's exciting.
I
don't think it's there yet.
That's okay.
Is it in your name?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe you could have your email pulled out of the mailbox.
Mr. Producer, we have a fly buzzing around our faces now.
Is that going to distract you so much that you can't?
Yes.
Really?
It keeps getting in my hair.
On my nose.
Okay, so I'm excited for my mailbox. It's next week. Great. And we will be answering as many questions as we can. Got to organize those so we catch everybody's questions. But on to today's topic. We are going to talk about what is probably the single most academically challenging feat that we ask our students to do. It's incredibly difficult, but we are convinced that it serves our students for a lifetime, not just academically, but in many other ways. And what is that? It is memorizing all 70 stanzas of Thomas Babington Macaulay's Horatius at the Bridge. Now, we do cover the topic of memorization quite often. It comes up all the time in any number of conversations we have. But this poem feels different. Tanya, why is Horatius different? What makes it stand out among all the other things that our students do and memorize? Why is it different?
Well, it's definitely the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
It has, it's not just 70 stanzas. It's 70 very long stanzas with really difficult vocabulary and a story, that is difficult for them to understand, except they have had the story in Famous Men of Rome. The whole Horatius story is in there, so they've studied it. But the actual poem, we have to go through it with them stanza by stanza to make sure they do know what's going on. And, it's just like reading Shakespeare for the first time or the second time. It's just because it is difficult. It does tell the one story, but that's a great way to do it. That's how we read Homer and Virgil also. But we don't ask them to memorize Homer or Virgil. And we are asking them to memorize Horatius at the Bridge, which just meant, that meant a lot to Cheryl. It was a big event for her to have students memorize Horatius at the Bridge. And we just, have worked to carry it on. And I tell you, it has really grown in the homeschool market. I get more videos every year of students reciting Horatius at the Bridge.
Nice. Well, Paul, can you catch us up, since everybody might not have even read all the 70 stanzas? Can you just give us a big overview of what's the story in the poem?
Rome is being attacked by the Etruscans, Lars Porsena of Clusium.
By the 9 gods he swore.
And Tanya should be doing this, not me. And maybe she could recite all 70 stanzas. Actually, when the students have to recite, they have to go one-on-one with an adult, right? And they have to recite it. And so Tanya is a habitual member of that team. Sometimes I get called on, and you get to hear it 5 times in a row, all 70 stanzas. So it does start to stick. I did actually memorize portions of this when I was a kid for Cheryl.
Yes.
But it was before I think she had the grander dream.
Right.
I like to say I was part of building up that dream. Anyway.
Maybe it was just they had better students later.
It could have been. But so Rome's being attacked, and they're gonna have to come over this bridge across the Tiber to get to Rome.
The Etruscans.
The Etruscans, yes. And the Roman leader's trying to decide what to do, and Horatius says, I'll go hold them at the bridge with 2 other guys. If you all can cut down the bridge, and then it'll stop them at the river. And so Horatius puts his life on the line in order to stop them. He's got 2, I don't remember what their names are. It's in the poem. And they go, and the 3 of them are able to stop the Etruscans at the bridge. And as the Romans are cutting down the bridge, and then once the bridge is falling, his 2 companions run back. Horatius still holds, and then once the bridge falls, he dives into the Tiber, and everybody's afraid he's going to sink because of his armor and the wounds he had sustained, and he's able to make it back.
And then he's a hero to both sides.
Yes, the other side realizes how valiant that was. I always wonder why they just didn't pour some tar on the bridge and set it on fire. but that
would not have made a very good poem.
Yes,
You're thinking about that.
It would have been over so fast.
And chainsaws would have made it much faster too, but they had to use axes and
But that does make the point that because it is 70 stanzas, and it is not a long story,
right?
But it does help our students prepare for Homer and Virgil as well, because there's this story, this historical story, legend, and Macaulay stretched that out over 70 stanzas. Yep. We've got them We've got the Romans running around gathering up forces and just all kinds of things
descriptions
happening.
of the Etruscans coming and who they're coming with, and
That's right.
Their helmets glinting in the sunlight, and
It's a great dramatization of a historical story.
Well, I want to bring in a really wonderful article that was written from the Memoria Press. Did we publish it in the magazine? I know it's on the website.
We did in 2015, I think. I want to republish it.
It's wonderful. Robert B. Charles was a former assistant secretary of state, and he wrote the article about one of our students who memorized Horatius at the Bridge. And he wrote it commending this student for this incredible feat of memorizing the poem. And there are just some really special stories. There's one in particular. Tanya, do you want to tell the story about the bridge that he tells?
Which was true. Yes, it's in the article, but it's about halfway in. He was part of a mission that went to Kosovo, and they literally had to protect a bridge to keep the enemy out. And he says a set of bridges was involved. And I guess that then maybe this made the student that he knew, maybe this story, came back to him and made him realize what a great, think if you had known Horatius and then you got in this situation and they put old cars, they took old cars over to the bridge and set them on fire.
They did what Paul said.
That's right.
They did. They did.
Actually, it sounds like they didn't blow up the bridge. The bridge stays intact. They just made it impassable.
That's right. They just made it impassable. Yeah. And so they saved this town in Kosovo. And he says history never actually repeats itself, but it does unfold in patterns and with situations that often resemble each other. But the main purpose of his acclamation of the greatness of these 12-year-olds memorizing Horatius at the Bridge is he said this then defines this memorization of this poem actually helps students become leaders. And that doesn't immediately feel like, okay, I've memorized the 70 stanza poem, so now I'm going to be able to be a good leader. But he points out that this is because students who have done it have shown conviction and purpose, and they've managed to do this great difficult thing that then they can do anything. And
and part of it too is right, like it's a choice for them, right?
It is a choice.
They decide to do it. There's like a 20 stanzas they were required to do. But they get to choose whether they want to do all 70.
That's exactly right.
That adds to this idea of, okay, this is not just some academic thing you've done, but that you've wanted to kind of prove your mettle.
That's right. And he said, I love this this phrase that he uses when he says that this challenges students to look out over the edge of the box. Like they've gone really beyond what the requirement of their education, and they've stepped out of the box, and they're able then, which that is what leadership is to be able to look ahead and look beyond. And so, I mean, he was just so praiseworthy of our students for taking this on. Which he knew was not, and he does talk about Churchill, which, we named it the Winston Churchill Award because Churchill memorized it as well.
The Horatius Award is called that?
It's called the Winston Churchill Award, yes, which Cheryl named because she knew that Churchill, I mean, that's where it all came from for her, was she read that, Churchill was not a great student, but he memorized Horatius at the Bridge and he would recite at parties and there are stories about how it really helped him when he's alone at the top during World War II, and everybody wants to give in and make friends with Hitler, and he just is adamantly no. He's looking off the edge of the box.
He's standing at the bridge.
That's right.
Yeah. No, and I think that one of the values of that poem is that it's unapologetically heroic. It's like we have a very hard time now telling stories. This poem is, in addition to being a poem, it's a story. And being able to look at our audience with a straight face and tell some heroic story. We have this, as modern people, we're all ironic now, and we want to make a joke about it as we go along, whatever. There are no jokes in this poem. It is straightforward, earnest heroism. And I think our kids desperately need to see that in the literature they read, because now everything's Shrek. It's making fun of some great thing. That shouldn't be our primary attitude. It seems to be our primary attitude now. Just go on TV and look at children's programming, or look at the movies they're making for children. They're all cracking jokes about serious things. Well, there are serious things, and we need to be able to articulate them without making a joke, without trying to undercut them in some way. And I think this poem really does that. It also shows our children that greatness is possible. And in this particular article, even in the modern world, right? This is not something that is confined to the ancient world. There's heroism that goes on today, and he's giving examples here. The other thing is memorization, right? The value of memorizing something. We don't have to memorize anything anymore. We have technology to take care. We outsource the parts of our mind to technology, and we think we don't have to memorize anything anymore. We can outsource it to something. Well, and of course that was Plato's argument against writing, was that would happen. And it happens even writing, but now we have all these other devices that allow us to do this very easily. And instead of, you used the expression mental furniture, we need to make it part, well, maybe I was just thinking it when you were speaking.
Mental furniture?
Yeah. We need to make these things a part of our mental furniture as things in our mind that we can attach meaning to and that we can use to see other things.
Yeah, because, you can find anything on Google. You don't really have to know anything.
But it might not be true. It might not be accurate. I have even Googled things I know, and you're like, that's not even right. So even though we have Google, do we really have...
Well, we just can't be so dependent.
That's right. That's right.
But talking about even just the Horatius story and being mental furniture, like the Horatius story was mental furniture for our society for hundreds of years. A couple thousand.
The original story, thousands of years of poem.
Right, because, before Babington even writes this, or Macaulay, if I use the right last name, anyway, Dumas' father is known as the Horatius of the West because he has a very similar military story where in the Napoleonic Wars, where he has to hold the town, and he does it single-handedly defending a bridge. But like anybody had to say at that point was, well, he's the Horatius of the West. And everybody goes, oh, right. He defended the town by holding the bridge. Right. And because this was part of the lexicon. It was just part of the stories everybody knew. And so the students in memorizing this get to be a part of that.
That long chain. How nice.
And the other thing is just the achievement of a difficult thing.
Yes.
Because I think that students are not cognizant of their capacities. And they, you present them with 70 stanza poem, and they're supposed to memorize it.
And it's a book.
Way.
It gets given to them as a book.
They basically memorize a book.
Yeah.
And for them to be able to say, I memorized this whole book, that instills confidence in you for later things.
That's right. So then when they open a physics book, they're not intimidated because they know they can do really hard things.
I memorized this poem, Horatius at the Bridge. I can do anything.
I don't think that any of them, I've never heard of a student afterwards going, I really enjoyed memorizing this.
No,
Right.
But like, it's not like, you know, when it comes to math drills or something, like some students are like, I actually enjoy this. And some students are like, well, I don't, right? I don't think in this project, I don't think any of them actually really enjoy it. I think for every single one of them, it is a challenge. And I think that's the beauty of it.
It is a challenge, but it's also the sense of satisfaction on their faces when they finish is they know it was a job well done. But what happened to us this past year at school, was because we had students who wanted to do it, but didn't really know it fluently. So it would take them forever to get through it because they weren't fluent. And so we thought, well, we're just going to put a time limit because we know that you can do it in 18 to 20 minutes is a nice pace.
Do you give them helps? Do you allow them like a help or two?
We will, yes.
There's a limited amount of helps.
There's a limited number of prompts. So I think we give them 22 minutes or 25 at the most. And then, but what happened this year is they were all nervous that they wouldn't make it in the time limit. So it was the fastest Horatius we've ever had. They literally, it was hard to even keep up. They were recited so fast. So now we've got to really work on that. I mean, that was a mistake. You know, we make mistakes. Yeah. And we thought by giving them the time limit, we were just saying to the 11, 12-year-olds, you need to know this well. But what they took it is now it's a race.
I got to Zoom.
Yeah, how quickly can you get through it as opposed to like how enjoyable for the listener can you make this? Right. That should be the goal.
Yes. Right? So we've got to fix that this year.
Yeah, because I was sitting here thinking, I'm not sure I could sit there and listen to somebody recite this, much less do it myself. I mean, I'm thinking, oh gosh, there's 1,200 other things I would rather be doing right now. But then if they're tempted to go faster, that's actually even worse, even though it's shorter. I would rather hear it said beautifully than hear it rushed through.
That's right. Yeah. It was, but boy, they knew it fluently.
And it's not just for students that are brick and mortar school. A lot of homeschool students do it. What's the process for that?
Your student memorizes the poem, and then you send us a video to sales@memoriapress.com
of their recitation.
Of the recitation. And I watch them and then award the Winston Churchill certificate with their name and the date I always use the date of the email and the lapel pin and the medal for them to present to their student.
And you do watch them thoroughly. I've been on work trips, conferences with you, and you are watching those videos at any free moment. You squeeze in a video.
Right. I'm really surprised Tanya did not have this memorized yet.
I know.
You would think. Yeah. Yes, it's so familiar, though. I don't really have to use the book. I can just listen. Yes. And I always know, too, if I get the video and it's around 18 minutes, I think this is going to be really nice. If it's 15, I know it's going to be really fast. And if it's more than 22, I know that there's going to be a lot of pausing and searching.
Struggling.
Yes. So I have recognized that.
And you've got some pretty special ones over the years.
There's been some great ones. We've had special needs kids do it. And it's just been amazing to think that, you know what, that is a huge accomplishment. And I hope they understand the story. I hope when people do it, that they literally actually do the study guide first, like we make our students do, like we do in class, and really study it and know what they're memorizing, because that is, it's not just the satisfaction of getting it done, but actually of understanding something that difficult at such a young age.
And it's poetry. So it's just as important how it's said as what is said.
Yes.
And I remember teaching it, and that was a long time ago. But that was when Nick, I think, was in my class, your son. And I remember thinking as I was going through it, why did he say it this way, as opposed to some other way? And many times there's a good answer to questions like that. Poets are able to take words and just make them dance. And Macaulay is a great poet and a great mind overall. He also did a history of England that's quite good. One of the great histories of England. But
was it verse?
No. No, it was a regular history, multi-volume, like 6 volumes.
Oh,
British history. And but I do think that it's also teaching poetry, teaching ways of saying things that are different from the way you would say them in prose.
Well, and if you're going to memorize it, you have to actually get used to that formulation.
Yes. Yes. And so, I mean, it affects your own prose. And if you ever go to write poetry, that's going to make a difference in how you say things poetically. There's great chess players. I was just talking about this in my online class last night. Great chess players. They don't memorize strategies. They memorize games. A lot of these great chess players have memorized every move in a number of great chess games. And so that when they're in a particular situation in a chess game, they just try to remember back to a similar situation. Some other great chess player was in some great game he played and tries to remember what he did to get out of it. And I think poetry is the same. I think serves a similar function in language. Is that if you can remember these poetic constructions in a poem, and you want to say something and you want a little dash to it, then you can copy some of those little things that poets do.
Oh, definitely
makes better prose.
And even, don't you find the types of writers you read totally affects your own writing? Don't you think? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would like to go back to what Tanya was saying about like the students understanding the work before they memorize it. And like, that's like a hallmark, if you will, of the Memoria way of memorizing, right? Like, we're not asking them ordinarily to memorize something they don't understand. And so it is important for them to actually understand not only the story, but the words, what's going on, who are we talking about? And because then when they're trying to recall that the next stanza, if they actually know what's going on, then okay, I need to talk about this now. Okay, then it's got to be these words, right?
And sometimes you can do that rather than giving them a prompt, because they have a limited number of prompts. If they're really struggling, you can just remind them where they are in this story, and they can pick it right back up. So I wrote down a few of the things that I feel, because he said Horatius at the bridge and the memorization of it forms leaders.
In the article.
Yes, in this article, Robert Charles. But I also thought, I kind of made a little list of things that I think, and you all can add to it, that Horatius teaches. One thing would be self-confidence. He had the confidence to think he could do this, that he could hold off an army from crossing a bridge, and he was willing to do it by himself. Also, his commitment to his nation, I think Charles would say that, because he was would he be a politician if he's the Assistant Secretary of State, I guess.
Involved in government.
But just, that commitment, his commitment to his nation, which Rome is very good at that. There's all kinds of heroes committed to. But it is something for our students. We're cynical in this day and age, and which is why we study history, not current politics, because history shows us what it means to be loyal to your nation.
Well, and it's explicitly stated, right? What is it? For how can man die better
than to face the fearful odds of something
for the ashes of his forefathers in the temples of his gods.
In the temples of his gods. Yeah. Which is also in the science fiction movie.
Yes, it is. Oblivion or something.
Oblivion. That's what he says when he's going toward that.
Yes. He quotes Horatius. That's the only thing I liked about that movie. Courage. It teaches courage. But it also teaches this, which he keeps saying in here. He says a couple of times, stick to it. Stick to it. Determination. He calls it stick-to-itiveness.
To-itness.
Stick-to-itness.
Yeah. Perseverance.
Well, and the other thing is, they're not just... They're teaching virtues, but in a particular way. They're embodied. They're in a story. And, I see some of these schools, and they'll have, like, this week we're talking about courage. And they'll talk about courage, but it needs to be embodied somehow to be inspiring, right? For you to want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is not just historical. It's not just a poem. It is actually a story where those virtues are exemplified, so that you don't have to think, well, what's the virtue of courage? When you just say, what did so and so do?
Mm-hmm.
How did so and so handle himself in this situation?
But I think it's a good thing that Horatius lives at the end, and so the students can have this image of you can be courageous and still come out on top, right?
You can,
but there are plenty of Roman stories where they don't,
that's
right?
And, where they lose their lives.
They lose their lives, or Lucius the left-handed. Is that right? Mucius the left-handed. Lucius. Mucius.
Lucius.
He loses his right hand because he wants to show that how dedicated he is to the Roman state. And I mean, it's important for them to see that too, but for something that you're going to like instill in their minds and it's going to be with them for life, something that's actually successful, I think is a good, good
especially
image.
with leadership. I mean, so much content about leadership, at least these days, is self-promotional instead of self-sacrifice.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you live or die being courageous, instead of self-promotion, your virtue shines through no matter what. When it's self-sacrifice.
Humility.
Exactly. Do we leave anything else out about the article?
I don't
It was a
think
good
so.
one. We'll link to it.
I thought it was
I hope this is still online.
It is. Yeah, it is on the
I'd like
website.
to put it in a classical teacher again.
Oh, we could do that. I think, has this been a while?
10 years.
10 years. 10 years.
Yeah. Put it back in. One less thing we have to write.
That's right. Right. I don't think I have anything else.
But if we want to give a little spoiler alert, Tanya, you have been rethinking kind of a bigger undertaking with memory work.
We
through
have.
the MP canon.
This is Brian Lowe's little project. We are introducing Herculean labors into our school, which we will eventually make available to the general public, so that your student every year, starting in 3rd grade, could take on nothing is as big as a Horatius, but take on an extra challenge just to, for all of these reasons that we've talked about. But we wanted not just to be 6th graders, but to give everybody the opportunity. So we've got them set, I think. I don't know if they'll work though, because we're just now releasing them to our school. So some of them may be too difficult and maybe they can't get them done. But right now I can tell you what they look like.
And I don't know if people know that. We pilot all of our books, our curriculum. We pilot our ideas on real children in our schools before we send them out to everybody else.
On human beings.
On human beings.
Academically.
Our own human beings, yes.
So that's what's about to happen.
You don't actually just, you're paying tuition and then your children become guinea pigs.
But it goes well for the most part.
And if it's a Herculean labor, you can just put them to work.
That's right.
Get paid
That's
for it.
right. So for 3rd grade, they already memorized the states and the capitals and the abbreviations. So all we're adding to that, we wanted it to be a very gentle start, is the date that the state entered the Union, and that is their Herculean challenge, is to be able to recite all 50 states with their capitals and their abbreviations, which they do anyway, plus the date they entered the Union, in the order in which they entered the Union. So
it's a lot for a 3rd grade brain. But
they're doing that in class.
Yeah.
They're able to do that within their states and capitals time. So we're not asking the parent to do a lot at home. And if they do it, then they get the Washington pen. So it's a pen that has a lapel pen that has George Washington's face on it. And then in 4th grade, since they do Famous Men of Rome, our 4th grade teachers came up with this. I thought it was too hard, but it's not, because they did it last year. And the majority of students did it. They're memorizing 3 soliloquies from Julius Caesar. Wow. So 2 of them, they made a requirement for everybody. So they did them in class. But the 3rd one was the funeral oration that Mark Antony did. And so they have to recite that 3rd one in order to get the Caesar pen. And then in 5th grade, we've been doing this for several years. They've memorized their 13s through 20s. multiplication tables, and they skip count them to their administrator and get the Pythagoras pen. And then 6th grade is Horatius. And then 7th, they already have to memorize the periodic table. And so we've added atomic masses. They have to put the atomic weights
of every element
on the periodic table. So that is a written exam.
Okay.
But they don't have to do it. It's their choice. And then they get the Mendeleev pen. And then 8th grade is the first 50, it's their second year of Greek. First 52 lines of the Iliad in Greek. They have to recite.
52 lines?
Yes. It's a lot. That's what I mean. I don't
Greek.
know. We'll see. And plus classical Greek in their second year of Greek. That's a lot. 9th grade, they memorize the Sermon on the Mount because they're reading the story of Christianity. And then 10th grade is they take the citizenship test.
And by
That's
that, you
the year
mean
they
the
study
U.S. citizenship that someone today who is trying to become a citizen
That's
would
correct.
go and take the test.
So that's a written test. And the thing about it is, though, for the citizenship test, if you're an immigrant taking the test, they only ask you a few questions. You need to know them all because you don't know what they're going to ask, but our students are going to have to write them all. And
it is quite difficult. I looked at it before to help people study, and it's remarkably challenging, even for...
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. I don't know half the answers.
Yeah, it's hard.
So I didn't do the 8th grade pen. That is Homer. And then the 9th grade pen is just going to be, I think, a cross. We're calling it the Gospel Award. And then 10th grade is...
you said it's a citizenship test.
Oh, yeah, Jefferson. It's got Jefferson. And then 11th grade is to read Shakespeare in a year. All of Shakespeare's plays in a year. We don't have the sonnets in there at this point, just the plays. But our students read 8 Shakespeare plays within their curriculum anyway. So they've got a head start, but they have to read the rest. And we've got a little chart that shows how many acts they have to read a day or how many scenes. So it's doable. But they also have a lot of other stuff. So obviously that's the Shakespeare pen. And 12th grade, they have art and architecture. And they memorize already 80 pieces of art. So we've added another 120. And we're calling that
I didn't
the
know
Vasari.
there was that many pieces of great art.
Oh, there's so many. I mean, Kyle had a really hard time getting it down to 200. At first, he gave me 300.
Yes.
He gave me 300. And I was
Do we teach them any methods of memorizing? Because, there's all these schools of thought out there about mind palaces and some of this stuff that my oldest son is into. But I think about that because you're talking about states. I had a puzzle of the United States, so all the 50 pieces, right? And then my mom got me, and they each had a color, and I always remembered my states partly because of what color. That California was orange, Nevada was green.
Well, we do have the states broken into regions by color. Yeah. So they are color coded. Yeah. And we do have a poster that we sell and that is in our classrooms that is color coded by region. But but we're making them recite in the order that the states entered the Union because we felt like that was really important for them to know.
It really helps in a historical
context. We hope that none of these would be like a way just memorizing for the sake of memorizing.
Right.
But think if you have the Sermon on the Mount in your head at all times to call upon any time that you needed it. Now, the 13s through the 20s, I told Brian once, I said, I do not see the purpose of knowing your 13s through your 20s times tables. And he just, as he was walking away, he said, I use my 18s all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it sticks with you. The colors, I still think of states in terms of colors. And the problem with the puzzle was that Rhode Island got lost.
Oh, no.
So it was just this pit. So I always thought if I ever went to Rhode Island, I'd just see this big pit,
Well, it is a tiny little puzzle piece.
It is. It's the first piece to go.
I wonder where that went. It's funny.
But even the atomic weights, that would be useful in chemistry.
That's right.
Yeah.
So but people will say the periodic table is available. Why do you memorize it when you can just, our faculty, I've heard
outsourcing
this
knowledge.
From. It's like we don't need to put anything in our heads anymore because it's all available. So why do we do this? Which I hope we've made the case for that today and in many, I mean, as you said this morning, there's, we talk about this all the time, but if we don't fill our heads with good things and valuable, useful things, what are we filling it with? Well, I can tell you.
Have you ever seen the movie The Book of Eli with Denzel Washington?
No.
Yes.
Okay, well, this is what this is
you did
about.
an article on that.
I did, because it's all about this guy. It's this post-apocalyptic America. There's been a nuclear war or something. So he's making his way across the country, and he's has a Bible with him. It's this book, and he goes across the country, and they finally steal the book.
By the way, it's very violent. The whole movie is very, just a heads up for people, very violent.
Yeah.
Don't recommend.
Yeah, right. But it's good in the moral sense.
I actually finish the story because I will challenge that.
Okay, so he goes and finally makes his way to San Francisco, and he's looking out in San Francisco Bay, and there's Alcatraz. And it turns out that people are holed up on Alcatraz with a library. They have collected together all the books, and they've got even all the versions of the Bible except one. And I can't remember which one it is. But if he loses the book, and at the end you're wondering, well, what's he going to do? And he goes and he lays down and he starts reciting all of the Bible from memory. Because the movie's about, I think, saving Western civilization. There's these people, who've preserved everything.
Pretty big for a science fiction movie.
That's very nice, except if you notice the very last scene, after they've compiled the entire Bible back together, they go and they stick it on a shelf right next to the Quran.
Oh, they do. Oh. They do.
And it's like
but at the same time, you still get this sense that the last piece was the most important. There still seemed to be that. Yeah, but you're right about that.
Yeah, you can hold on to.
I think
there are things you can hold on to, and there's things you go, oh, geez.
Which I guess is true with any piece of fiction, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But it is these books I'm reading, the unselected journals, is like late 1800s, and this girl is very poor. Her parents have died, and she wants to educate herself. And I think I'd said before, she sold her father's library to get the money to go to school, and the prep school for girls was awful. I mean, it wasn't anything about academic education. So she basically threw that library away, and now she's trying to gather books back, and she doesn't have any money. So somebody gives her, she's got Shakespeare's complete works, and she's got a Bible, and now somebody's given her Treasure Island, which she's just reading over and over and over because she doesn't have a lot. And so she just, and she's got Jane Eyre. And that's it. That's her library. But she just keeps reading these over and over and over. And she can quote from them because, I mean, there's something to be said for that. I feel guilty if I reread something because I think there's so much stuff I haven't read. How do you get it all in?
Well, and also it brings up the question, are you better educated if you know a lot of books somewhat well? Or if you know a few of the greatest really well. I mean, it is. We kind of try to strike a median between those two things here at the school, I think. But that's a good question. It's one you probably need to think about if you're an educator.
Yes.
And as I've gotten older, I have wished I had more things at my disposal in my memory than I do.
Yes.
Sure.
And there's a value to being able, you hear these stories of people that laying in a hotel bed and they just can quote to themselves something that's meaningful. And I'm sitting here going, I don't know what I would do. Right.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think it's a great treasure. And I do think it to have that
hotel
hospital bed.
No, to have it in something in your memory.
I know, but do you mean
why are you lying in a hotel bed for days?
Sorry, hospital. Sorry, thank you, Jess. Thank you.
I was like,
yes, hospital bed.
I was okay with hotel until you said I don't know what I would do, and I thought, why would you be lying in a hotel bed?
No, I'd be laying in a hospital bed. No, I don't intend to go that way. That sounds even worse. There's a whole lot to be said there. Anyway,
okay.
I think it's a great treasure to have things memorized.
Definitely.
And it really becomes a part of you.
And I keep resolving to myself, I should memorize certain things and just repeat them every day. And I'm thinking, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning. I mean, when you get older, and when you get older, it gets worse.
Dave had a professor once at the seminary who, one day he just came into class, and I think he had a robe on, and he recited from memory the entire book of Mark. And Dave said it was so moving. Sure. And, just to have one of the Gospels in your head and know it so fluently that you could just draw on it anytime. Mm-hmm. So we do have to be careful what we memorize. Oh, hopefully definitely. We've chosen good things, worthy things for students to memorize. But, Scripture is a big part of that.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, good conversation. Horatius at the Bridge. We will link to this article in our show notes. And on the Memoria Press website, you can find the Horatius guides.
Yes.
And instructions if your student has memorized, how to submit that, how to get the medal.
Yes.
So we've got all that on memoriapress.com.
And there's a gallery of students reciting. So you could find one that you really like that stands out to you and use that also to help with the memorization.
Well, thanks everybody. And thank you for joining us. We will be back next time. Thanks for joining us today on Classical Etc. by Memoria Press. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, or share this episode or comment. We love to hear your questions and your comments. If you want to learn more about Memoria Press, please go to memoriapress.com. This has been Classical Etc. We're so glad you joined us, and we'll see you next time. Do you remember who was the vice president and the fly landed on his head through the debates?
I remember that.
What was his name? Oh, he was our vice president. I remember.
Don't you? Hey,
who was Trump's vice president?
Not my book. Not my book.
Pence.
I did not want fly guts on my.
Yeah, in the vice presidential debates, the fly was on his hair the entire time, and it became this crazy meme. Nobody could pay attention.
I think he went that way.
Oh my! We are going to be here all day.
Hair fly.